Hi everyone, it's Rain here. Welcome to my channel, Spiritual Rain. This is Healing with the Inner Tarot, and in this series I will be using this book, The Inner Tarot by Kate Van Horn, as my guide to a 78 episode healing journey that I'm happy to share with you. So thank you so much for being here. Now I want to add a disclaimer. I am not a therapist. I'm a self-therapy enthusiast. I have a little bit of psychology education in my background, and I just wanted to say, if you feel the need to seek professional help, please do so. There are a lot of resources out there. And another little disclaimer, some of the things that we talk about in this series might be triggering for you, so please keep that in mind. In the description below, I have a downloadable PDF workbook with homework that you can do after the show. I've also included an original tarot spread that I created called Building Your Resistance, and that's my gift to you. So let's get to it. Today we're talking about the Five of Pentacles and how we can use this card to help with our healing journey. The Five of Pentacles is about hardships, worry, fear, and isolation. Since the pentacles represent the material world and the body, this could represent financial hardships, job loss, ill health, or an unstable home life. If we look at the card, we see two people walking in the snow outside a church. They seem badly injured, and they look like they're in a state of poverty. It's winter, it's so cold out, and it's snowing, and it's very dark out. They walk by a church, but they don't seem to notice it. It's a pretty sad card. Now, this is how Kate describes the Five of Pentacles in her book. She says, the card can feel low, a bit hopeless and lacking. It illustrates a feeling of being forgotten rather than nourished. She says that she knows that the moment this card is flipped over, that she's running on empty. Her body is tired and depleted, and she's tired of feeling this tired. I can relate to that. So I could add that another meaning of this card might be feeling abandoned by the divine, by God, or by spirit. These people are passing by a church that has a beautiful stained glass window. It's lit up with 5 pentacles. It shows hope and light, but they can't see it. It's a beacon to those outside who are in need of help. They're too focused on their suffering, on their pain and their hardship. The dark has taken them over and they can't see the light. Maybe they feel like, what's the point? Or everything's against me, or why me? Why is this happening to me? I've been through that. I'm going through that. They feel forsaken. Perhaps those 5 floating pentacles represent the hardships, and the light behind them represents a way to overcome them. Maybe not all is as it seems. Now, if we look at the 5 of Pentacles reversed, it's actually quite hopeful. We're starting to overcome those hardships. We're starting to recover maybe from disease or illness. We might be rebuilding our finances. Maybe we're leaning on others for help, or restoring a relationship that might have been going downhill. Now, Kate has some great things to say in her book about the 5 of Pentacles energy, and here's one of them. The only way out is through the 5 of Pentacles. The body feels empty in some sense, but the ability to refill and refuel is also here, tempting us to find the strength and resilience to overcome rather than give up. The 5 of Pentacles card isn't here to mock your lows, but rather validate your hardships while encouraging hope. You must now find solutions to your discomfort. When we think about hardships, we've all had them, right? We've all been through something where we feel like we've been left out in the cold, like we're always walking against the wind. We're always fighting that wind, and it never seems to let up. It's frustrating, and it's devastating. I always think of the Tower card when I see the 5 of Pentacles, but you know, the Tower card is complete ruin and devastation, but it comes quick, and we're left to rebuild that foundation. Now, the 5 of Pentacles seems to take its sweet time, and it keeps stacking up and stacking up and stacking up until we get to the breaking point, or as Kate suggested, we force ourselves to find a way out. I think it's a great opportunity for growth and change, but when we're in that energy, in that 5 of Pentacles energy, like the people in the card, sometimes we just can't get out of it. We can't see a solution, or we're so betrodden by suffering that it's not within our capacity to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So when I was thinking about this card and the meanings and the energy, the first thing that came to mind was, I want to solve your problems. I want to solve my problems. I can't stand to see people suffering. I can't stand to suffer. I can't tolerate it. But it's all part of life, right? I can give you a personal example of when I was in that Five of Pentacles energy. Now, I've often mentioned that my upbringing wasn't the healthiest. And just after my 18th birthday, which was quite a long time ago now, I left my parents' house. I had a friend who lived in a rich area of the city where I lived, and her parents were both doctors. They were very wealthy. But just on a side note, the Five of Pentacles energy can affect those who seem to have it all together too. My friend's sister, her older sister, was murdered by her boyfriend when she was in high school, because her boyfriend was upset that she broke up with him, and he was obsessed with her, and he was jealous that she might find somebody else, and he killed her in the basement of my friend's house, and he tried to kill himself, but he didn't succeed, and he went to prison. But my friend found her, and that led my friend to so much trauma as well. And you think, like, when you see these wealthy people who have huge homes and lots of cars and lots of money, and they go to the best schools and they have all the opportunities in life, well, Five of Pentacles energy can hit them too. So I just wanted to say that on a side note, because it's not just we sort of people who are paycheck to paycheck or living on the poverty level who experience the Five of Pentacles energy. I mean, all we have to do is read the tabloids and we know that, right? Anyway, back to my story. Her parents were overseas for a few months, and she suggested that I stay at her house until I find a job, and I thought that was great. You know, I could stay somewhere warm, and I had my friends, and we could do a little partying. You know, I was 18 years old. I ended up getting a job at Dunkin' Donuts. I had the midnight to 6 shift, 6 nights a week. I decorated the donuts. Do you remember that Dunkin' Donuts commercial on TV? My gosh, in the 80s? Time to make the donuts. I already made the donuts. Well, that was me. Time to make the donuts. Midnight to 6, decorating the donuts. It was fun, though. I enjoyed it. I also found a little crappy apartment. It was a basement apartment, and it wasn't that great, but it was mine. It was my home. So I was doing okay. You know, I could pay my bills. I could still go to school at night. But then I ended up losing my job, and I had to leave the apartment because it truly wasn't livable. There were bugs, and it was in a bad neighborhood, and I got robbed one time while I was working. And I had a new apartment lined up. I was just waiting for a little bit more money to pay the first month's rent, but I had signed a lease, so I thought everything was good. But in the end, the owner chose somebody else because I guess he got a deposit quicker than me, and I had nowhere to go. I was homeless. Thankfully, it was spring and it wasn't winter like in the Five of Pentacles, you know. All my friends still lived at home, so they couldn't help me, and I was homeless for just under 2 weeks. It was terrifying. I did have my job, but the pay wasn't coming until, you know, a couple of weeks after, so I didn't have enough money to find myself an apartment. And there was no way I was going back to my parents' house. During the day I worked, and in the evenings I either hung out at shopping malls or at libraries, and at night I actually slept under the balcony of this apartment complex in the rich area of town, so I felt a little more safe. It was next to a vent that was blowing out hot air, so I wouldn't get cold. You know, I felt warm, but it was hard to sleep. I was still scared. It was a very scary time for me. And remember, I was only 18 years old. That was definitely a Five of Pentacles time in my life. The day I got paid, I found an apartment, and I paid the first month's rent, and I had basically nothing with me, a bag of clothes, and that was it. But even though I really did feel left out in the cold by society and by the divine, I'll admit I felt determined to find a way out. Even though I felt abandoned, I was determined to find a way out. But I have to say that trauma still lives with me. My greatest fear is to be homeless, and I go to great lengths to make sure that that will never happen again, you know, life lessons. So for today's healing journey, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about how to become a more resilient person. We can't control when the Five of Pentacles is going to pop up in our lives. We just can't. But if we're able to stand firm and exercise our resilience, we might get through that energy without it destroying us in the process. I think this energy really encourages us to look within and find solutions to our problems. To be able to do that, though, we need to be resilient so that we can find that glimmer of hope, because when we're in that Five of Pentacles energy, it's hard to see outside our tunnel vision, right? There's a website called Psyreading, and I found a nice quote from them. While the initial emotional impact of the Five of Pentacles may be challenging, it also serves as a catalyst for personal growth and transformation. It's a call to action, urging you to confront your fears, embrace change, and find the strength within to overcome adversity. Now, the definition of resiliency is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. So how do we do that? How do we embrace our fears and our struggles and our hardships and find strength through this suffering? I'm going to try to unpack all of this for you during this episode, but first I have a few quotes I'd like to read to you about being resilient. Now, the first quote says, "Resilience is very different than being numb. Resilience means you experience, you feel, you fail, you hurt, you fall, but you keep going." And that's Yasmin Mogahed. The second is from Maya Angelou. I love her. "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." That is great advice. Number 3, resilience is all about being able to overcome the unexpected. Sustainability is about survival, but the goal of resilience is to thrive. That's by James Kaisho. And before I read the fourth quote, I just want to define the word affect. In terms of psychology, it means emotions, feelings, mood, well-being, that kind of thing. So here's the fourth quote. "Resilience is the maintenance of high levels of positive affect and well-being in the face of adversity. It is not that resilient individuals never experience negative affect, but rather that the negative affect does not persist." And that's a quote by Richard Davidson. Now, another phrase that always comes to mind when I think of resiliency is, "This too shall pass." As long as you believe it, you have to believe it, that this too shall pass. Actually, it's a good affirmation during those hardships. If you repeat over and over when you can, "This too shall pass, this too shall pass." If we can practice being resilient, we might be able to better weather the storms that we can't control, and find clarity, which will result in hopefully finding solutions. So how can we reverse the Five of Pentacles energy so that we can shift things around, look around us, and see that beacon of hope? We have to come out of the cold. We need to be determined and not give up. Remember that the number 5 in tarot symbolizes change. So the hardships you're experiencing are likely part of an important growth process, urging you to reconsider your values and what truly matters to you. So where is this Five of Pentacles energy affecting us? Well, it can affect us in areas of our lives where we could be struggling. Some areas could be employment. We could experience job loss. Losing a job is really hard because it's devastating, not just financially, but morally as well. Now you have to start all over again when you just felt stable. The rug was pulled out from under you. It's hard to find motivation when you're feeling demoralized and worried about how to make ends meet. Unhealthy work environment. You could be experiencing financial stress, not being compensated for your work. You could have toxic coworkers or a toxic boss. Clients could be rude. The physical work environment itself may be dangerous or just may not be good for your health. You could have mental fatigue. You could have a demanding or high-pressure job where you work long hours without taking time off to rest. You may be providing care for a loved one who's ill or has special needs. All of this can lead to mental fatigue. It could be an unrewarding career. Perhaps you need to pursue a job or a career that has more meaning for you. This may require you to re-educate yourself or try to improve your skills or do some serious job hunting and networking. Another area in our lives where we could be experiencing this Five of Pentacles energy is in our relationships. We could be in a toxic relationship. You may be in a relationship where there are difficulties, antagonism, lack of proper boundaries, neglect, isolation, and even, God forbid, abuse. You may be with a lazy partner, and the burden of keeping things together lays solely on you. You may be with someone who won't work, and all of the finances are burdened on you. You could be going through a breakup or a divorce, maybe a separation. You may feel left out in the cold, abandoned, dismissed, and heartbroken. And then there's also unrequited love and loneliness. There's a lot of pain and suffering equated with unrequited love. I've felt it, and it's excruciating. Maybe you've been dating and you can't find a connection. You might feel like you'll never find the one. Another area in our lives where we could be experiencing Five of Pentacles energy is in our health. Illness and disease. You may be struggling with a disease or a disorder in your body. You may have mystery allergies or mystery aches and pains and food intolerances. These things catch up with us and we can start to feel hopeless. I am experiencing that right now. I have mystery food intolerances and it's wreaking havoc on my body. And I do feel hopeless at times. There's bad health habits too. You might have let your health habits go. You might need to eat better, lose some weight, get rid of some unhealthy habits and become more active. But sometimes when you're in the thick of it, it seems so insurmountable, you know? I remember when I had to lose over 100 pounds after taking some medication for a couple of years. Losing 100 pounds, like how on earth am I going to do that? It did seem insurmountable. I did end up pushing through, but it took a lot of resilience. There's also mental health struggles. Sometimes life can really push us beyond what we can tolerate, and our mental health, even our emotional health, can really suffer alongside this intolerance, you know. It's called distress intolerance, and I'll talk about that on another episode. So a fourth area of life where you could be experiencing Five of Pentacles energy is your finances. You know, you could be house poor. This is the term for living paycheck to paycheck. You're house poor. You can pay your bills, but there isn't any wiggle room for a savings account or for paying off more than the minimum monthly payments. This can really make you feel trapped. I've been there. There's cost of living. Some of us, myself included, live on fixed incomes, and unfortunately, as prices rise, inflation, our incomes don't reflect that cost of living, so we find ourselves falling deeper and deeper in debt. It's very scary. And then there are emergencies, and I'm sure we can all relate to this. Things seem to be going well. We start to save a little money, cut down our debt a little, and bang, one of the dogs gets sick. You need an expensive dental procedure. Your brakes need to be replaced on your car, and guess what? Now the savings is gone, the debt's higher, and you feel overwhelmed and worried about how you'll make ends meet. Now, when it comes to having a Five of Pentacles energy in your finances, that leads to a sense of not being safe, and that's really, really hard to bear. So when it comes to being resilient, it sure can be challenging when we're facing so many hardships and so many obstacles, like one at a time, keep stacking up. I think that's why we have to build our resilience muscle before we get to that Five of Pentacles energy. So how can we be more resilient? Well, I'm going to offer you some suggestions. Number one, find your purpose in life. Finding a sense of purpose can help you find meaning in life's challenges. Instead of being discouraged by your problems, with a more clear view of what you think your purpose of life is in this life, you'll be more motivated to learn from your past experiences and keep going. And that attitude of keep going really builds your resistance. Number two, believe in yourself. Having confidence in your own ability to cope with the stresses of life can play an important part in resiliency. Becoming more confident in your own abilities, including your ability to respond to and deal with a crisis, is a great way to build resilience for the future. Research has actually shown that your self-esteem plays an important role in coping with stress and recovering from difficult events. So work on that self-esteem muscle too. Number 3, develop a strong social network. I can't stress this enough because I've been through it. It's so important to have people you can confide in. Having caring, supportive people around you acts as a protective bubble during times of crisis. Talking about a situation with a friend won't make your troubles go away, but it will allow you to share your feelings and get support and receive positive feedback and validation, and maybe come up with possible solutions to your problems. I can attest that having a really strong social network is so important, because I was in a very toxic relationship for a very long time. I didn't want anyone to know about it, and for years I kept it quiet because I was ashamed that I had gotten myself into this situation, so I didn't want to talk about it. Eventually, that shame kept me trapped too far into the relationship, and I needed to get out of it. I didn't know what to do, and I was embarrassed. So the first person I talked to was an anonymous helpline for domestic abuse. And then the next time I talked to someone, it was a social worker over the phone. And then it was a social worker in person. And then it was a trusted friend. That terrified me, but I did it. And then it was another friend. And then, you know what? I started to feel that support, that friendship, that validation. So I talked to somebody else, and then I mentioned something publicly, and I was building my resilience and building my resilience so that while I was still in the relationship, whenever a situation of verbal or emotional abuse popped up, I had more resiliency, and I was less likely to let it destroy me and make me feel insecure to run back to my partner and beg for forgiveness for something I never did, just to get that distress intolerance out of my system, that inability to tolerate being treated so badly. So that's a personal experience I wanted to share with regards to building a strong social network. So let's get back to our list. Number 4, embrace change. This is hard. Acceptance is always hard when you're in the thick of it and your emotions are present. But having flexibility is an essential part of resilience. By learning how to be more adaptable, you'll be better equipped to respond when faced with a life crisis. Resilient people often use these events as an opportunity to branch out in new directions, take a new path. Once you find the solution or eliminate the change, new direction, new journey, new fool's journey, right? But there are some people who may be crushed by these abrupt changes, and highly resilient individuals are able to adapt and thrive. So it's important to learn how to be resilient so that you're not one of these people who is crushed by these abrupt changes that can be devastating. Number 5, be optimistic. Staying optimistic during hardships is challenging and difficult, but if you can maintain a hopeful outlook, it's an important part of resiliency. What you are dealing with will be difficult, but it's important to remain hopeful and positive so that you'll be able to make it through. Positive thinking, it doesn't mean ignoring the problem and just focusing on, dreamy positive outcomes. It means understanding that setbacks are temporary. This too shall pass, and that you have the skills and ability to deal with the challenges you face. Number 6, nurture yourself. When we're stressed, it's so easy to neglect our own needs. You lose your appetite, you ignore your exercise, you don't get enough sleep. These are all common reactions to a crisis situation. Instead, focus on building your self-nurturing skills. Even when you're suffering, make time for activities that you enjoy. Even if you're sad doing them, do them anyway. You might have a little glimmer of happiness during that time. By taking care of your own needs, you can boost your overall health and resilience and be better ready to face life's challenges. Number 7, develop problem-solving skills. Research again suggests that people who are able to come up with solutions to a problem tend to cope more productively with stress compared to those who can't find solutions. So work on problem solving. Whenever you encounter a new challenge, make a quick list of some of the potential ways you could solve that problem. Anything, any kind of new challenge. It doesn't have to be a Five of Pentacles or a Tower moment. Any kind of challenge. Make a list on how you can solve it. Experiment with different strategies and focus on developing a logical way to work through common problems. By practicing your problem-solving skills on a regular basis, you'll be better prepared to cope when a serious challenge emerges. Now, number 8 is establish goals. Crisis situations are daunting. They may even seem insurmountable. Resilient people are able to view these situations in a realistic way and then set reasonable goals to deal with the problem. When you find yourself becoming overwhelmed by a situation, take a step back to simply assess what is in front of you. Brainstorm possible solutions and then break them down into manageable baby steps that you can take to get out of that situation. Number 9, take action. Waiting for a problem to go away on its own ain't going to happen. It just prolongs it. Instead, start working on resolving the issue immediately. While there may not be any fast or simple solution, you can take steps towards making your situation better and less stressful. And this goes back to what I was saying about me being in that toxic relationship. Waiting for things to get better wasn't making it go away. It was just prolonging my suffering and my misery in the relationship. I had to take action. So part of that was talking to friends. Part of it was building my resilience muscle. Part of that was talking to a therapist, ongoing talking to a therapist to help me heal and cope. And also creating emotional distance. So those were all the things that I had to do to get out of this toxic relationship. But I took action. I didn't just wait for it to solve itself, because it wouldn't have. So back to taking action. Focus on the progress you've made, okay? Actively working on solutions will also help you feel more in control, and that is very true. I gained a lot of strength while I was actively working on the solution to leave that toxic relationship. So rather than just waiting for things to happen, being proactive allows you to help make your goals a reality. Very true. And number 10, commit to building skills over time. I think this is the key to all of it on how to really build your resilience. You have to commit to it. Resilience may take time to build. So don't get discouraged if you still struggle to cope with problematic events. Everyone can learn to be resilient. And it doesn't involve any specific set of behaviors or actions. It just takes commitment and all of the things that I've listed here. So focus on practicing these skills, my friends. Also remember, keep building and keep learning. Now, Kate has a section in her book for each card, and it's called Connect with the Card. So for the Five of Pentacles, she writes, try box breathing. Now, this is a 4-part breath that you can use in moments of stress to calm anxiety. And this is very important for us to do when we're experiencing that Five of Pentacles hardship energy. When we're struggling or suffering, exhale deeply to clear your lungs. On your next inhale, breathe for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4 without exhaling and before inhaling again. And then begin all over again. Recently, I was in a bit of a pickle. I had a major anxiety attack and it was starting to turn into panic. I couldn't remember to do the box breathing in the moment, but I did try after the chaos calmed down a little. I was still really, really shaky and fearful, and I do attest that the box breathing did help to ease my fears and my anxiety, so it does work. I am going to practice doing this in the morning and the evening for the rest of my life if I have to, because I think that if we practice enough doing something, it becomes almost a gut reaction when we're in the middle of a stressful situation, and that's what I want to do. I want it to become a gut reaction. Now, one thing that I often do is I remind myself physically to stop thinking the worst, to stop the negative thought patterns, and to stop catastrophizing. Now, how do I do that physically? Well, some people will wear an elastic around their wrist, and when they recognize that they're thinking negatively, they'll snap the elastic. Now, I tried this, but damn, it hurts. Damn, it hurts. I was like, no way. So I decided to try something different. I was given an amethyst crystal necklace by a friend, a good friend of mine, and I wear that necklace around my neck mostly every day. Now, I'm in the habit of grabbing that crystal and squeezing it when I'm feeling something uncomfortable or negative. It reminds me to try to stop thinking of the worst case scenario. When I'm able to recognize that, I'm able to see a more positive outcome and to change a negative thought pattern and to see a potential solution to a problem. If I start to notice a negative comment in my head, I immediately replace it by a positive one. Now, that's if I notice it. Now, here's an example. There's a song that I really, really like by a band called The Replacements. It's called Unsatisfied. And in times of crisis, I naturally start to sing that song under my breath. And it goes like, I'm so unsatisfied. I'm so dissatisfied. That's how it goes, right? So when I catch myself doing this, I'm like, why am I singing this song? I have to actually change the lyrics for myself. So I change it to, I'm so satisfied. Like that, you know, I change the lyrics. I'm sure Paul Westerberg from The Replacements wouldn't be happy about that, but it's just an example of how I can change a negative into a positive. And as you can see, it kind of filters through so many ways. In this case, through a song. You know, that negative thought pattern, it can filter through a song. It can filter through something you see out your window, something you read, a movie you watch. It's crazy how these negative thought patterns just pop into our heads. If you find yourself beating yourself up, it's so important to take a step back and ask yourself if it's true. Recently, one of my dogs got injured, and I was crying my eyes out, telling myself I wasn't a good fur mom. I was failing her. I was neglecting her. I was spending too much time at work. But you know what? I took a step back, and I realized that it was all just garbage, negative talk. I replaced those untruths with phrases like, I'm a great fur mom. I take good care of my fur babies. I'm doing the best with the time that I have. I'm trying to live a balanced life. I am allowed to spend time working and enjoying it. I could care less about anyone else's opinions about how I take care of myself, my home, and my family. All of those are truths that I replaced for those untruths. And it gave me a sense of power. It restored my faith in myself. And it made me realize that, yes, this too shall pass. I built up my resilience through positive, genuine self-talk by chucking those untruths out the window and bringing myself back to my own truth, which means I am not a bad fur mom. I'm not failing the dogs. I'm not neglecting them. I'm not putting work a priority. All that garbage talk, you know what I mean? So let's get into deeper reflection. Kate has a section in her book called Deeper Reflection for Every Card. Now, she suggests that you create a powerful personal affirmation to carry you through the toughest circumstances and hardest times. This is the prompt that she suggests. I am not, and you choose broken, forgotten, unworthy, or losing. I am, and you choose resilient, gifted, worthy, intentional. Choose them all. I will reconnect with my inner strength now because. Now use this prompt to fill in exactly what will give you strength. Now, I have an article below that you might find interesting. It's called Building Your Resistance. You can find this link in the description below. Now, here are some general Five of Pentacles journal prompts from the book Journaling with the Tarot. They'll also be available in the downloadable PDF workbook that I have in the description below. So here are the journal prompts. Number 1, How can you decrease your pain? What source of help and support are you overlooking? How are you paying attention to your physical needs? What might you do to develop a sense of appreciation for what you have? Now, I have a book called Trauma Healing Journal, and every week I like to share one of the prompts from this journal. This prompt that I'm sharing today is under the heading of Empowerment and Resilience. Here's the journal prompt. Describe instances in your life when you demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity or trauma. Now, this might be a deep dive for you to think about, but I think it's important to acknowledge when we were really strong and resilient to all of the hardships and difficulties we've been through. Remember, these times of strength only help us to push forward the next time when we face a Five of Pentacles energy. Now, I can give you another personal example of when in my life I demonstrated resilience in the face of trauma. During this toxic relationship that I was mentioning, there were instances where there was quite a lot of verbal and emotional abuse, and it left me crushed. And then there was silent treatment, so I was left alone after being, you know, kicked when I was down, so to speak. And then maybe a couple of days would pass and I couldn't handle the silence anymore. I just wanted life to be normal again. So I would always be the one to chase, to always, like I said before, apologize for something I didn't do, try to mend the fences, try to convince the partner that, you know, I'm not the person he thinks I am, and that we could have a nice dinner together and we can resolve this. I was always the one to do that because of my distress intolerance. Now, there was a time in my life, in the last year, I guess, where I didn't do that. I demonstrated resilience, and trust me, my friends, that was so hard to do. So hard to do because that distress was so intolerable. I couldn't take it anymore, and I knew what the solution was. But I had to finally put my foot down and say, no, Rain, you need to find your self-respect. You need to find your self-dignity. You need to love yourself more than that. So I demonstrated great resilience that time, and I let days and weeks pass, and I allowed things to unfold the way they were going to unfold. And after that day where I felt the highest amount of distress, but I was resilient, guess what? The next day it was easier. And the day after that it was easier. And then I was able to emotionally detach. And then I was able to open up more to friends. And then I was able to get back to work. And then I was doing live streams. And then I was taking the dogs for walks. And then I was envisioning how life living alone would be so wonderful. So that is a huge, huge time in my life when I demonstrated resiliency. So I'd like to pull a few oracle cards now that emphasize the idea of building up your resiliency. This card is from the Whispers of Healing Oracle deck. It's the negativity card. Look at this beautiful little fairy. Look at how emotionally drained she is. Negativity can do this to us. I don't want to say can. It does do it to us. It emotionally drains us. You've heard the term energy vampire. Well, this is negative people. Now, when we're in a bad spot, negativity is a natural occurrence and a natural response. But if we stay in that energy too long, we will be depleted. And if we hang around people like that for too long, we will be depleted. And if we're depleted, we can't possibly find the energy to get ourselves out. I know how difficult this will sound, but if you want to train yourself to bounce back easier from crises and challenging situations, practice positive thinking. Take baby steps, because you truly can reprogram yourself. And if you're able to do that once the crisis arrives, you'll be better equipped to deal with it. And don't forget to go back to the 10 suggestions on how to build your resiliency. Those are very, very good things for you to learn. Now, this card is from Nature's Whispers Oracle deck. This card is Catch Your Breath. And it's very apropos because, as we mentioned before, one way to reduce the fear, panic, and anxiety when you're experiencing tremendous stress is to do some intentional breathing, or as Kate suggests, the box breathing. Take a breath and experience a quiet moment. During this quiet moment, you can regroup, recover, and stabilize yourself. You need to regain your footing and evaluate your situation. Recharge yourself before tackling that daunting task of finding a solution. I just realized my dog, she's a boxer pit mix. Her name is Miley. She's been snoring for the past, I don't know how long. I don't even hear it anymore. So that's what you heard in the background. I just wanted to mention that. All of my friends know my dogs are always going to be in my videos, but I just wanted to mention that for those of you who don't know. Now, for every episode, I pull a card for the collective to kind of give us a general message with regards to the subject of the show. And this is what happens, and I'm not kidding, my friends. I was pulling the decks off my shelf over here, and I was trying to decide what deck I was going to use to look through the cards to see which, message for the collective I wanted to send out. And as I was pulling them off, I suddenly lost my balance, and Five of Pentacles, 5 of my oracle decks spilled out all over the ground, and the cards flew everywhere. I was already having a hard day, and I was just like, what next? And I started to pick them all up, and I put them into piles to try to organize them. And the last card that I picked up off the ground, and I kid you not, I swear, it was this one. Can you believe this? It's the Resilience card from the Whispering Woods Oracle. The message is stay as strong as evergreen trees. Jeez Louise. Talk about divine timing. When I think of trees, they are so brilliantly resilient. I think this message came at the perfect time for me and for this episode. I think it was divine timing. So what are the key points that we should keep in mind for today? Well, number 1, 5 of Pentacles energy is challenging. It's suffering, it's pain, and it's hardship. Number 2, we have to face this energy to get through it. Number 3, our hardships can act as a catalyst for personal growth and transformation. Number 4, we can become more resilient to hardship if we commit to it. Number 5, intentional and box breathing will help reduce stress in times of crisis. Number 6, changing negative thought patterns to positive ones can build our resilience. And number 7, journaling and deep reflection can help us see clearly to find solutions. So that's our show for today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some value out of it, and I hope some of it resonated with you. Please do like, please subscribe, please share this with anyone you think might benefit from it. I've created a playlist, so they're all in order in the playlist. Leave me a comment. I really love your comments. I appreciate them so much, and I value the feedback. I do respond to all comments. Next week, we'll be talking about the 6 of Pentacles. So until then, my friends, have a great week. I'm sending you lots and lots of love, tapping my heart and sending you love. Bye. Thanks for being here.